Rev up your engines!
Jake says, my parents have a home on the beach. They need a new SUV. I noticed their Pilot is starting to really rust and corrode, not the paint, but everything under the car and the hood. I'm assuming if they washed it more, it wouldn't have corroded as much. Any suggestions for a new SUV that might not corrode as quickly? Well, it depends where they have a house. If they're actually on the beach, it's going to corrode because the salt, water, and air, just in the air, the salt comes through if you're on the beach, the mist from the ocean, and they're going to rot. I had a guy in Galveston, he was on the beach, and his cars would rot every 4 or 5 years. There was nothing left of them because he lived right on the beach. And it didn't matter. They closed the garage door, the mist would get in the salt, would eat it up. So it really doesn't matter. But if you go and get a Toyota product, they have probably the best anti-corrosion electronic stuff when they built them. Soak them in a tank. They're like electrolysis. The anti-corrosion stuff does the frame, also the inside of the frame and all parts. They have the absolute best. So get a Toyota. But that said, if they do live right on the beach and they got saltwater mist coming in every day with a fog, there isn't squat they can do because they're all going to eventually rot because it's continually being immersed in the salt stream of water and salt coming in. There's nothing you can do about that. Just like the people that live on the ocean, even their air conditioners, which are aluminum, they corrode away from the saltwater mist. The door frames, even if they're aluminum on their sliding doors, they rot. You can't stop it if you are actually on the beach where there's salt water. That's why if you live in some place like that, be on the top of a mountain or hill, overlooking the ocean and not that close to it. Being right on has its disadvantages too. Now here's something a lot of people might not think about it till it's too late, but first responders need to be much better equipped for electric vehicle fires. They are something that is going to cause problems. It already has caused some problems. Even back in the day when all there were hybrid cars like the Prius, those things had very high voltage, and sometimes the responders, they would not touch the cars because they say that's got 400 volts, it could electrocute us. They're going to need to be much better trained and have better equipment, and especially electric fires are generally a lot more stubborn than a regular fire because they're created by electrical shorts. You could put an electric fire out, let's say they put an electric fire out, a car gets in a wreck, and then they're towing it away. When they're towing it away, that battery can start back up on fire again because it could keep internally shorting itself out. So, you could have some tow truck with a flaming car behind it, which would cause a big mess. The feds say that the vehicle manufacturer's safety recommendations for electric car fires is totally inadequate, and that there's a severe lack of knowledge involving lithium-ion batteries in high-speed crashes where they're all crushed in, touching each other, shorting out. It could be a deal that if you really wanted to be safe, you'd have to get the stupid thing removed and then put into some kind of a containment device so that if it was sealed, it couldn't start on fire because there was no oxygen feeding it. They propose that each car has to have essential information on it to tell the firefighters what to do. Last year, there were 3 cases where the batteries reignited after they were put out after an accident. And they're going to have to learn how to correctly store these vehicles after they've been in a wreck somewhere. You can't have them in a lot somewhere and all of a sudden they reignite again. Yeah, it's a big problem that a lot of people don't think about with electric cars. They just think everything's fine and dandy. There's a lot of stuff that's unknown about them. Well, here's a not surprising statistic. Car thefts were up in 2020 to a big high. A lot of people blame it on a pandemic and all of its after effects. I guess people don't have jobs, they don't have any money, they can't buy a car, so they're stealing them. Car thefts increased 9.2% from 2019 to 2020, and those are the reported ones. There's a lot of cars stolen and nobody ever reports. I'm sure it's actually a lot higher than that. There are 878,000 cars stolen in the United States in 2020, which is the highest number in more than 10 years. And of course, older models top the list because they don't have all the anti-theft equipment. So you got an older car, put a kill switch, maybe get a burglar alarm system in it. Make it so it's harder to steal. Even something simple like putting a club on your car and locking it when it sits for long periods of time. Those locking clubs, guys see it, then they realize, oh gee, I'm going to have to break that. They'll go and steal the next car that's easier to steal. The thing about keeping people from stealing your cars is you want to make it as hard as possible. You got a garage, park your car in a garage. Another level of safety. You got a fence, park it behind the fence, lock the fence. Always make it harder. Put an alarm on it. And nowadays they got all kinds of alarms, ones with cameras so you can see what's happening in your car. Doesn't cost much. It can save your car from being stolen. And some of the thefts are even tied to a bunch of these juvenile setups have been defunded and don't have money anymore, so now there's more juvenile delinquents roaming around stealing cars. And a lot of cars are stolen by juvenile delinquents. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. When I was young, I knew juvenile delinquents, they're always stealing cars. And any jobs, or any money, want to ride around in a car, that's the first thing they're going to do. So car thefts are at an all-time high, 2020 United States. So maybe be a little bit more careful now so you don't become one of these statistics and not have a car anymore. When you go to start it, there's nothing there. Rockstarnik says, what makes Ford sell so many vehicles compared to other domestic brands? Why does the F-150 outsell the competition? Is it superior engineering or just marketing or more brand loyalists with Ford? I'm writing a paper on do sales actually reflect quality product? Okay, that's a very good question, and I'll give you a very good answer. Now, the F-150s, they've been trucks for a long time. They do have loyal customers for sure, but they also make very good larger trucks. That's their thing. They keep perfecting their trucks to some extent. They're an American car manufacturer, so of course they make mistakes. You know, they keep trying to perfect the trucks. Now, when you say do sales actually reflect a quality product, a lot of times they really don't. 2 years ago, Volkswagen sold more cars, became the #1 car seller in the world over Toyota. The Toyota quality blows Volkswagen away, but the Volkswagens are cheaper, they market them better. Plus, in Europe, they sell different stuff they don't sell over here. They sell German-made ones that are higher quality than ones here that are made in Mexico and different places. The quality's a lot worse. So there's a lot of factors that are involved in it. But I mean, the fact that 2 years ago, Volkswagen outsold Toyota, that makes no sense because the quality of Toyota is so much better. But of course, the Toyotas cost a little bit more, so people always going to buy generally the cheaper car. Main fact in almost all cars throughout history is their lowest price models were always the ones that they sold more of because they cost less, and that's what people are going to buy. One of the few breakages of that rule is sometimes Toyota sells more Camrys than other cars, and that's not their cheapest car, but they're so well made and they last so long, and the later model ones are so luxurious that they do sell even more than their cheaper versions. But most of the time, the cheapest version is the most they sell. Like BMW, it's always their cheaper 3 Series that sells more than their other series because it costs less money. That's just the way that it goes. So sales and quality don't necessarily go hand in hand. You always have to put all the different dynamics into effect. As I say, one size doesn't fit all, so don't analyze it with just one perspective. You got to look at all the different perspectives. King 42088 says, I just found out from AutoZone my Lexus ES 394 has knock sensors need to be replaced. I don't know where they are and if it's worth fixing. Unfortunately, those knock sensors, and that car has 2 of them, are under the intake manifold. You have to remove the intake manifold to take it off. It even takes a mechanic like me hours to do the job. If it runs okay, it's not going to hurt anything. But unfortunately, if you live in an area where they do emissions inspecting every year of your car, you're going to have to replace them or it will fail the emissions test. They're not hard to replace once you take the manifold off. They just bolt on and off. But it's a job taking them off. I've had customers have them off years and they run perfectly fine. Now, sometimes if they go really bad and they give really incorrect data to the computer, the car won't run right, and then you'd want to replace them. But if you live like here in Clarksville, Tennessee, and it runs perfectly fine, you can just ignore the whole thing and it won't hurt anything. But like I say, if you live where cars get inspected for emissions, you're going to have to fix it, and you're going to have to take the manifold off and replace them. It's not hard to do once the manifold's off, but that's a pretty big job. There's a lot of stuff you got to take off to do it. You could do it with normal hand tools if you take your time, but if you're going to, my advice is get yourself an information system, either online or a book like Chilton or Haynes, and see everything you got to do because it's a pretty involved job. Jesse 322 says, Scotty, I got a 2013 Hyundai Genesis Coupe 2.0 turbo. The coolant is filling a reservoir, but it's not circulating and it has no leaks. Okay, it's overheating. Always start with the basics. If you say the coolant isn't circulating, replace the thermostat. It's cheap. That's a 4-cylinder engine. Not that big of a deal. Pray it's just that. Now, if it's not that, you want to watch my video, How to Fix an Overheating Car Engine, Scotty. Watch that on YouTube. It'll give you every possible test is the reason it could overheat. Do the simple thing. Change the thermostat, and what the heck, change the radiator cap. It might be losing pressure, and they don't cost $10. Change the radiator cap to them. Pray it's that, and not one of my other fixes, like a blown head gasket or something that's cracked. I mean, it could get real expensive. But a lot of times, if it really isn't circulating, the only thing wrong is the thermostat stuck shut. So check that first. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.